2026 sees me travel the length and breadth of England to run a marathon per week in each of its 39 historic counties. Why? To raise funds for Tommy's, the charity that does incredible work to try to end the heartbreak of baby loss. I'll be joined each week by someone who has their own story of loss, their own rollercoaster journey, their own reason to be there. This podcast shares those stories in the hope that they can bring awareness to an often undiscussed topic and even, perhaps, a flicker of light in someone's darkness. You can follow the runs, the stories, and donate to the cause at marathonsformiracles.com. Enjoy. Hello, welcome to week 29 of Marathons for Miracles. Nearly can say 30, but not quite. I decided yesterday that despite having 11 to go, I've decided that the last leg in Norfolk is free because that's the last weekend. So I've got it in my head now that we've got 10 to go because that sounds much better. So if you think that's cheating, let me know. But that's my logic and I'm sticking to it.
No.
Week 29, we're off to Essex this week, which is an exciting week for us because we're going back to Finchingfield and the surrounding area, which won't mean a lot to a lot of people, but it's where Amy and I used to live. It's where we lived when Poppy was born. It's also where we lived when we had our miscarriage. So yeah, very relevant place for us. And we're very lucky to be joined this week by Amy, who I think we found through the Finchingfield Mums WhatsApp group.
Finchingfield Mums group, yeah. Yeah,
that Mums group, despite having left, it continues to be a force to be reckoned
can't
with.
leave it. Once you're in, that's it. Once you're in for good. That's it. You can't leave.
Amy was on the sofa. My wife, Amy, was on the sofa the other night, sort of chuckling away at something. It's like, what are you reading? She's like, I'm just going back through the messages on the Finchingfield Mums group. I was like, Amy, we moved 2 years ago.
But you never know. It's a small world. Your paths sometimes cross or something.
Exactly. And it's worked for finding you for this week. And I think we've also expecting quite a big, or I say quite big by our standards, crowd to see us in when we finish off in Finchingfield on Saturday. So
yeah,
don't ever leave a WhatsApp group. Moral of the story. So we will get into a little bit later on sort of where our route's going to go and where we'll finish up. But first, as ever, thanks so much, Amy, for joining the challenge and for being on the podcast.
No worries.
Great to have you on. And we will kick off in usual fashion and ask what it is that led you to being involved with Marathons for Miracles and your link to Tommy's and their cause.
Yeah, so like we said, I saw your wife put your challenge up on the Finchingfield Mums group. And I don't know, I was at the time, it was summertime, wasn't it? I think when she first put the message out, probably this time last year. And I was quite struggling with my miscarriage, like coming to terms with it. And I don't know, I just really wanted to help. It just grabbed me and I just really wanted to help out in some way, in some format. Yeah. Like I said, I was struggling with my miscarriage. I have a little boy already. He's soon to be 3. But I say stupidly, wasn't planned to fall pregnant when he was 9 months old. Me and my partner, we hadn't done anything like that. Since he was born, I had a few complications after him being born and just general life just getting in the way. And then, and I know they say you're super fertile after, but I thought, okay, 9 months after, whatever, I'll be okay. Wasn't tracking anything. And then, surprisingly fell pregnant, was not ready for it at all. Was not, because my little boy is, and always has been, allergic to sleep. So I had not had a single night's full sleep since him being born. He was a refluxy baby, just everything. He just was not a good sleeper at all. And I was like, how the hell am I going to do 2 under 2? I just couldn't comprehend it at all. And then I really struggled with it. I was like, no, what am I doing? I'm not ready for it. And, I had thought of terminating the pregnancy because I just was not ready for it yet.
Wow. Okay.
that had crossed my mind as well, because I was just so sleep deprived. I was like, what am I doing? No, I can't do this yet. And also I felt bad because I felt like he was still a baby and he needed me. I couldn't have another baby. I wasn't ready yet, he was still my
Hmm.
baby. And then I'd experienced a few symptoms that I didn't have when I was pregnant with my son, just like bleeding and stuff. Not enough that they say, oh, you're going to soak through pads and whatever. Like, it was nothing like that, but it was enough to make me think, hey, this isn't quite normal, or I'd have cramps and stuff. And then I went to an early, I was too early to be put with like the maternity unit at this point. I was like 5 weeks. So then I'd had a scan and they said, yeah, the sac's there, but nothing's there yet. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just, I don't know what's happening. I was Googling lots of things, could it be a blighted ovum? Could it be this? Could it be that? I'd like convinced myself I wasn't pregnant. And then so they said, come back next week. 6 weeks was there and the heartbeat was there and everything. And then I still had some like weird bleeding. And yes, I had scans like every week because I was measuring small for the week I was pregnant, which I'd
Hmm.
had when I was pregnant with my son anyway. We had growth. We were told like he was measuring small, but then turned out when he was born, he actually wasn't. So well, like we decided like this is it. We're going to have 2 under 2. It's going to be a lot, but we're going to do it. I'd come to terms with that is my fate,
Yeah.
if you like. But I'm going to have 2 under 2. It's going to be amazing. We'll work it out. And then we went to our first midwife appointment, had all the checks and stuff, and everything was fine. And I was quite an anxious mum. Like, I had postpartum anxiety with my son. So I was quite anxious anyway. And I was anxious that I was going to get that again. Like, how would I cope? I think the whole lack of sleep didn't help as well. Like I said, I had a little few complications with when I had my son. My birth was quite intense. I had from contractions starting and him being born was 2 hours, which
Wow.
sounds idyllic when I say it out
Yeah, I was gonna
loud,
say
but
some
it
people.
wasn't. It wasn't, because I went from 0 to 100 in
Yeah, no,
minutes. Like,
absolutely.
I had no time to think. I actually thought I was dying, that I thought it was that painful. I was like, something is wrong. Because it was that intense. They say it comes in waves, the contractions, but mine were like this. I
Bang.
had to be injected twice to try and slow them down, and it wasn't working. And then he just appeared, with an episiotomy later. He appeared, which didn't go well either. I wasn't sewn back up correctly. And then that, yeah, had a whole load of complications as well. So I was quite anxious about that happening again. And we had actually moved house to Finchingfield. We'd moved from like Bishop Stortford way,
Hmm.
and I was now 45 minutes from a hospital. So I was thinking,
Which
how the hell?
hospital? Where did you go?
Chelmsford.
You went to Chelmsford.
So
We went to Cambridge, but I think
yeah,
it's about the same. It's about the
yeah,
same
so I was
distance either way,
like,
isn't it?
and when I had my son, they said, oh, your next labour will be even quicker. And I was like, great, I'm now 45 minutes from a hospital, and my first labour was 2 hours. So I was like, really, to the woman, the midwife, I was like, do we need to have a C-section? Like, what's going to happen? She says, well, let's just grow a baby first. I was like, okay, I have these anxieties. But anyway, so that's what we did. A few weeks later, still had these bleeding. And I remember it was the Euros and England were playing, and it happened. And I had this bleeding, and I rang 111, and I said to, I think I need a scan. I need someone to help me. Like, something is wrong. Like, I'm bleeding, not profusely, not loads. I said, but it's quite common now. They said, okay, go to Chelmsford Hospital, and there'll be an out of hours doctor will see you. So I got there so quick because everyone was watching the football. And I get there, and this young man takes me through, and I explained my symptoms, and he says, okay, well, we'll do a pregnancy test to see if you're still pregnant. And I said, okay, but even if I'd had a miscarriage already, was it your HG or HCG levels,
HCG.
I'll still be high. Yeah, they'll still be high anyway. I said, and like, even if they had got whatever, it's still going to show that I'm pregnant. So anyway, I did a pregnancy test, and yeah, it said I was pregnant. And then I said, what do I do? And he said, oh, well, they don't really bother about bleeding in the first trimester anyway. So he kind of really just like blase left it at that. And I said, okay, had my first scan and everything was okay. Everything was there, fine, healthy baby. Then at 10 weeks, had another scan there, and the doctor who scanned me, he said, like, has anyone checked your cervix? And I said, no, I've only had like outside like ultrasounds.
Yeah.
And so then he did an internal ultrasound and he said, okay, your cervix looks fine, but you've got some fibroids there. That could be what's causing the bleeding. I knew I had those anyway, but he said, you've got some there, like everything looks fine. So I had our 10-week scan. The baby was healthy, wriggling around, like happy as Larry, heartbeat, everything was looking fine. Then we went away to Cornwall for a week, and we were coming back to our 12-week scan. And at this point, the bleeding had stopped. I hadn't had a bleed for about 2 or 3 weeks. So I thought, okay, everything's fine. But I did notice that my symptoms had stopped. So, like, my boobs didn't hurt anymore. My sickness had gone as well. Like, I struggled really badly with nausea. So that had gone. And then, so I was like, I don't really feel pregnant. Unless someone told me I was pregnant, I didn't really feel it.
Yeah.
So, and then we had our 12-week scan, and it was the 14th of August. My mum had come. We'd only told my mum at this point I was pregnant because I was a bit like spiraling. And so she came and sat with Leo, my son, and we went to a scan. And I just knew driving there, I just knew I was going to be told something wrong. I just
Mm.
had this weird feeling. I didn't have that, oh, we're going to see baby. I had this like, don't know, something in me is just like, they say, like you feel it in your waters. Like I just felt
Yeah,
like
yeah.
something wasn't right. And I just remember laying there and she just put the device on me and they were just still. And I just knew instantly. And she just said, I'm really sorry. Like your baby has died. Like, and I just like, I couldn't, I was just like, what? I had like an out of body experience.
Mm.
I feel like, and like both me and my partner like cried. It takes a lot for my husband to cry. And yeah, and I was just like, what? Like, why? Why has this happened? Like, can you tell me like what was wrong? And she just said, "Mm." She got her colleague in and they confirmed it. And then they said that the baby's got it's got high drops, which is like fluid on the head and on the heart. And I was begging her. I was like, can you tell me if they're a boy or a girl? Can you tell me? Can you tell me? And obviously I was crying at this point. I was like, I just need to know. Because with my son and with our other pregnancy, like we just wanted the surprise. We didn't want to know what they were. But I was like, I need to know like what if they're a boy or a girl. And I think because I was upset when she was trying to scan, she was like, oh no, I can't see. It's too like early. It's too early. But I was 12 weeks. And I just couldn't, I found it weird that I had miscarried and they'd literally died the day before. Like the
Mm.
scan, my date, it said like 11 weeks and 7 days or something. So it was literally bang on, like the safe point of you telling, everyone. And I just couldn't understand as well my body hadn't naturally passed them as well. Like, I don't know, it was just weird how they just stayed there.
Yeah.
And then this was all right before my little boy was about to turn 1. So he was 1 the 23rd of August. So literally 10 days before him turning 1. I was already emotional, grieving him turning 1, and stuff. And I was like, what am I yeah, it's just weird still having them in you, being pregnant but not at the same time. And then the other midwife came in and said, you know, what can happen? How do you want to go about it? And I said I wanted to have the surgery done. I didn't want to, at the time, I didn't want to pass them. I didn't want them to go in a toilet kind of thing. I just didn't want that. I just want to have the surgery, the suction surgery. And so we booked that in. So I was still carrying them for about a week until I then had the surgery. And then I had that. And it's a weird thing. It's really weird. I remember going and I remember feeling like I can't be upset because I still have my baby at home to go home to.
Mm.
And I felt like as well that they wouldn't have lived outside of me anyway. They wouldn't have survived if I had birthed them. However, so I had them tracking on my phone and I still have the screenshot of the last like size they were on my phone. And it says at that age, at that stage of pregnancy, like all the organs are formed. And then that made me think, oh my God, like it is actually like quite like real, they were like a real, it wasn't like a poppy seed. It wasn't,
Mm.
anything like that. It was like real. And so I remember being in the ward and there was a girl opposite me and sadly she'd had an ectopic pregnancy and she had to have one of her tubes removed. And there was another girl next to me. She had had 4 miscarriages that year, like very early on, but still 4 miscarriages. And I was like, this is my first one. I can't really be that upset. I've still got my little boy to go home to. I really like tried to suppress my feelings to tell me like, oh, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. And I remember like they'd give you the tablets to soften your cervix and to bring on like basically the miscarriage. And I was like bleeding lots. I told them, I was like, I'm bleeding quite a lot now. And then they took me down. I remember crying, like, and they were like, it's okay. It's really sad. And I was like, yeah, I'm sad, but I'm also really sad. Like, I don't know if any new mums have experienced this when they've had a baby, but I often then think the worst, like what could happen to me. I was like, oh,
Mm.
what if I don't wake up from this surgery? Like, what happened? Like, my little boy, like, I've not said like goodbye to him properly. Like, he's not going to understand. And I was really like driving myself mad, like, of the what ifs. And obviously, I'm in such safe hands. I do it all the time, but you just never know, do you? And I was,
It's a
yeah,
lot though, isn't it? It's
I was crying for that. I was like, what if something goes wrong? Because I feel like that had gone wrong. I was like, now I'm on a chain of events where I'm always looking for the what if something goes wrong now kind of thing.
mm.
And yeah, and then had the surgery and we decided I didn't want them to just be put away with all the other body parts, like incinerated. I wanted to have a funeral for them. I felt I owed it to them as well.
Yeah.
And we had to wait quite a few weeks before we could collect them. It was actually a couple of months. I didn't get them until that was August. I didn't get them back until November. And I say them because I
Oh,
didn't know what they were and they couldn't tell me. No, the hospital couldn't tell me what they were, nothing. So we refer to them as they were the size of a lemon when they went. So we call them baby lemon. And I've got like a lemon tree here. Like it's
oh,
that my kind
nice.
of reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had the funeral and I just felt like I remember just feeling like at the funeral, like planning it, but like, I feel silly like doing this because they're not like a real baby. I feel silly doing this. Women have miscarriages all the time. I think it's like 1 in 4, or it's 1 in 4 per woman's pregnancy, isn't it, that have a miscarriage or something like that. It's really
One
high.
one in four 1 in 4 pregnancies, yeah. Is
Yeah,
one in
so it's
one in
quite high.
three, some say 1 in 3, like it's a lot.
Yeah, and I know some people miscarry and they don't even know, like they've had it and it's so early on. I class mine as being, relatively late. 12 weeks is kind of I remember I announced my pregnancy to the world, like when I was pregnant with Leo, and it just shows you that until they are in your arms, there's no real like
Mm.
safe point. And, I'm kind of thankful, I didn't get longer in my pregnancy and it happened at 20 weeks and like have to actually give birth to them, or them being born like really poorly, and then, them not living a full life, that would have been really difficult and seeing that would have been horrible. And I don't know what caused it. And I blamed myself a lot. I was like, oh, I wish this on them because I wasn't ready for the pregnancy. Like I caused this. I
Mm.
really struggled with that a lot. Even now to this day, I still think of them all the time. I think about that, like the 23rd of February will always be in my head because that's the day they should have been born. Like they should be 2 in February. And yeah, I don't know. It's really a weird, and I just feel like it's just, once it's done, it's done. You just brush it under the carpet and just move on with life. And I know life moves on. I know
Mm.
that, but I have
Yeah,
really struggled.
it's not as simple as that though, is it? It's not as simple as you just brush it under the carpet and move on. I think that is a
Yeah.
perception of from sort of the wider world that it's just a miscarriage and it happens
Yeah.
and you get on with your life. But we speak a lot about the the idea of as soon as you find out you're pregnant, that you start
Yeah.
to plan, you start to have these thoughts, and you start to hope for the future, and you start to piece your life together. And I think even I think what you've just described there is such a fantastic example of that, because a lot of your emotions that you've spoken about are perhaps a bit more on the perhaps on the more negative side and the more anxious side and the worrying side, which is incredibly difficult in and of itself. But I think it paints a perfect picture of what we've spoken about a lot with other people, of just how much, as soon as you get that positive pregnancy test, that is your life then going forwards. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is happening, this is where we're going. And so for that to
Yeah.
suddenly just get cut off
Not happen.
and to not be the case anymore, it's because because you never had the baby as such. I think
Yeah.
people struggle to relate with how it's such a massive shift. But
I think it was,
psychologically, you've already got that
yeah.
baby. It doesn't matter that it's only been growing for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 10 weeks. Like you,
Yeah.
in your mind and in your planning and in your approach to life, that child already exists.
Yeah, exactly. I had already, because I had my little boy, I was like, right, okay, they're going to be born in February. So my little boy needs to start going to nursery so I can have time with the newborn baby, and also, so my son is okay without me. So I was looking at nurseries for him. I'd like put him in nursery, which was already, I didn't want my little boy to go to nursery, but I was looking at it, and the reason was like, oh yeah, because we're expecting another baby. I want him to be able to be okay with not being with mum, and I'm going to have to look after the new baby. So if I hadn't have fell pregnant, my son wouldn't have gone to nursery so soon. And although, like you say, like you planned your life, what could happen, and not, yeah, what cannot happen as well. We probably didn't plan for
Yeah.
that. Has made me anxious falling pregnant again about, I'm now feeling broody again, and I don't want to leave a big gap between my son and another baby, but I'm now
Mm.
getting worries like, okay, what if that happens again? Or what if I get further along, or I want to find out what they are, just in case that happens again to me, because
Yeah.
I found it felt really anonymous, not knowing if they were a boy or girl. And I remember we spoke when I first signed up for the marathon challenge that certain trusts can tell you. I think Cambridge could tell you, but yeah, for some reason,
Yeah. I
Chelmsford.
think we, whether it was just a Cambridge thing or we were probably 2 weeks further on than you were. I
Okay.
think Amy
Yeah.
was 13 and something as opposed to 11 and something. So whether it was because of that and it was then
Yeah.
deemed no longer early pregnancy, I can't. It's one of those things where when you're in it, you don't focus on the detail
Yeah.
too much, do you? But Amy gave birth to ours,
Yeah.
and they then offered various tests and stuff, mainly focused on seeing if there was an underlying issue that might, because that was our first pregnancy. This was before
Right.
we had either of us. So that was really helpful in a way, is that they sort of did a lot of investigation and looked into whether this was caused by an underlying issue that was going to give problems going forward, which there weren't any, luckily for us. And so that was a reassurance. But I guess the one of the big topics around miscarriage is, having to wait for
Yeah.
3 until you can get any further answers,
Yeah.
which is something that
Exactly.
Tommy's has worked very hard on recently to put a plan together to try and change. So yeah, we were fortunate in that regard. But actually, we were offered. They said, "Do you want to know if it was a boy or a girl?" And we actually said no, which is interesting. And again, it's
Yeah.
different people's approaches, isn't it? But
Yeah.
for us at the time, it was almost, we found it easier to cope
Deal.
with not
Yeah.
knowing. Like, suddenly, by knowing if it was a boy or a girl, it made it just that bit more real and more
Yeah.
relatable and more emotional. And so uh,
No, and I felt really like, I had to just mention this, like I felt like I couldn't grieve because, again, like it was still fairly early in my pregnancy. Yeah, I didn't have a stillborn. I didn't, which is tragic. I felt like I couldn't grieve. And horrendously, some of our friends of ours that we know, they actually lost their baby in labour in January a couple of years ago, due to medical negligence. And she should be here today. And just seeing like the pain my friend has gone through. I felt like I couldn't
Mm.
like be upset for myself. And also, I tried to support her as best I can, through her horrendous loss that she has gone through. Um, she actually spoke on ITV News the other week about it because it was just so horrendous what has happened to her.
Yes, I remember you
And yeah,
posted it in the.
yeah. So, but I get waves of, it comes and hits me, and I'll get sad, or I'll think of the what ifs. Like now, when I see my little boy playing, I think, oh, he should have a brother or sister with him. Those sort of things. I get a little bit emotional about, but hopefully next time it won't happen
Yeah.
again.
Well, it comes up so often, is that conflict of mine isn't as bad as someone else's, so I don't have the right to be sad about it.
Yeah,
And there've been a lot of really successful conversations on this podcast around just validating your own experiences and being like, look,
yeah,
yes, I can look at your experience and think that it's worse than mine, but actually for me, mine is as bad as it gets. Like, and those feelings of
yeah,
sadness and loss are
yeah,
just as, yeah, valid. Like, I was at a Tommy's event last week. I spoke about this on last week's podcast, and they speak the term they use is minimizing. They said miscarriage gets minimized a lot,
yeah,
both by society and by the people that go through it. And actually, that's one of the big things that they're looking to change, because it's huge. Like, it's a major life event. The guy I've said it before, and actually the guy who runs the Tommy's Miscarriage Centre used those exact words last week, which was quite reassuring to hear. It's like
yeah,
it's a major life event. It's the same as losing anyone else in your family. So yeah,
yeah.
it's
And I
not
think, like you said
not
earlier,
easy
you're
to go
kind of
through.
grieving a life you had planned as well, and then for it to just be taken away. And as a woman, you think you're told, okay, one day you're going to have periods, you're going to meet a man, you're going to fall in love and have babies. It's just like a given, isn't it, that that's going to happen. I
Mm.
cast myself as quite fit and healthy, look after myself. And I just selfishly, I just never expected it to happen to me, or maybe I never expected it to hit me as much as it happened, because when it happens, people be like, oh yeah, so and so's wife had a miscarriage. And it's just like so said, like as if, oh yeah, I had a cold last week. It's so like just
Mm.
blase. But then at the same time as well, it's good people are talking about it and mention it. But at the same time, there is still quite a lot of taboo around it. Like a lot of people like don't like to mention it, that it's happened or they've gone through something like that. And if it
Yeah.
is early, a lot of people don't know that you're pregnant as well, which I find the first trimester horrific. Like I am just cannot get up. Like I'm exhausted beyond means. The sickness, the everything, yeah, is just the migraines. It just knocks me out completely. So that also makes me anxious. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go through like 15 weeks of feeling horrendous before it gets better again. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's quite, I think the first trimester is hard going. And now that's when you probably need more support around you and people to understand, what you're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've told people very early with both of our two pregnancies since, because it's like
Yeah.
we can't go through that. Like,
Yes.
and it's something. It's not just sort of getting through the first trimester and needing the support there, but it's also, if something happens again, if we lose
Yeah.
another one, like, we don't want that. We don't want the surprise that our parents get, or our surprise that our friends get, to be, we've lost a baby, rather than, because they never knew. If they never know you're pregnant in the first place,
Yeah.
then that's a big slap in the face for them, rather than, they've
Yeah.
got to sort of deal with the surprise of the pregnancy, and then like the grief of the loss as well. So no,
Yeah. I know. I
we
remember when we got home, like from the scan, and mum was like, "Oh, how did it go?" And I obviously had the picture because they said give me a picture of them, and then I
mm,
just said like, "No," I just said, "No, not good. Like they've died." And she was just like, she just couldn't like, she was like, "What?" Couldn't believe it. And then she had to then go home and tell my dad, because my dad didn't even know I was pregnant, and be like, "Oh, Amy's just, had this." And even Adam's parents didn't know, so Adam had to ring his mum and dad and tell them, that it had happened. And I remember they sent us like, a sympathy card and stuff, and then a week later, I had my son's birthday, and I had to be all happy celebrating obviously, I was happy celebrating my son, but, like,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
close friend, like, she came down and she bought, like, a bunch of flowers and gave me, like, a big hug, and I was just like, "Oh," you know, what do I say? Like, this is not the time to be sad now. I need to, focus on Leo. But
Mm.
yeah, it is quite
Just
a
tough.
lot.
It's hard to navigate.
Yeah.
A slightly tricky question, I guess, and feel free not to answer
One.
this one if you don't want to. You you spoke obviously quite a bit about how when you first got pregnant, it was like,
Yeah.
no, this is not the time, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
And then you subsequently miscarried. Were you able to feel any sort of relief in that moment? Was there any sense of that, or had you got to term? Had it been long enough into the
Yeah.
pregnancy where you'd actually completely got to terms with it and were ready to go?
Yeah. At the time, I didn't feel relief. I felt like I was like, I really blamed myself. It's like, you've wished this on them.
Mm,
You caused them to die. Like, I really
wow,
like,
yeah, because
yeah,
that's the other side of it,
blamed
isn't it?
Yeah, I really blamed myself for it. They say, like, "Be careful what you wish for because you might get it," kind of thing, like,
Mm,
and that's I really, like, took that. Uh, Not so much then. I'd, like, come to terms with it. Like I said, I know their birthday, all those things. I was, you know, kind of looking forward to having a winter baby. I have a summer baby, so I was kind of excited to see where that would go. And I'd come to terms with, like, yes, okay, life is going to be flipping hectic with, two
mm.
under two. But my mum, when I first told my mum, she was like, "Oh, it's a brilliant age gap. They'll play together. And now I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I'll have two out of nappies soon. All those things. I'll be like, I'm on my way to getting my life back. But sometimes now, like, my son is quite difficult. He's very highly strung and, like I said, doesn't sleep. And when he is on one, I just think, how the hell would I do think now, I think sometimes I do think I would not have managed. Like, I would have no hair on my head. Like, I'd be so stressed up to the eyeballs. I don't know how
Mm,
I would have coped, but you just do, don't you? You just do cope. You just deal with it, don't you? So
yeah,
I don't think I necessarily felt relief. It's just wasn't in my path,
yeah, no, yeah,
just
fair.
wasn't right.
It's
They
again,
say
it's all
Mother
these.
Nature has these things, Mother Nature has plans for you, or spirits up there, I don't know, have plans for your life, kind of thing. So I don't know. There's probably, I try to think, there's a reason why it didn't happen, and I just got to try and take that with me as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, relief perhaps wasn't the kindest word to use, but you know what I mean.
I
It's
know
that
what you meant.
conflict,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's that conflict of you've. Remember we spoke to Faye, who did the Shropshire leg with us back in week 15 or something, and she was very so she got pregnant with a boyfriend that she hadn't been with for a very long time, and initially was like, oh God, this is the end of my life, I can't do this, and then had sort of got her head around the fact that
Yeah.
no, actually we are going to do this and it's going to be fine, and then had a so sort of
Yeah.
gone a very similar process to you, really, sort of the
Yes.
initial ah shit, and then actually no,
Yeah.
got my head around it, and then once you get your head around it, then you get the rug
Yeah.
pulled from underneath you again. So
I think
it's a
as
real roller
girls as
coaster, isn't
well.
it?
Yeah, as girls as well, you're always taught, like, be careful, you know, but you're also told at school, like, the minute you have sex, like, you're gonna get pregnant straight away, and
Yeah,
they don't realise it's actually so hard to get pregnant. There's only, like, 5 days in your cycle that you're actually fertile and all this other stuff that goes into it, and, you're always told, like, "Oh, don't get pregnant too, you've got to be with a guy for so many amount of time before you really know him to have a family with him," kind of thing, and, yeah, if your career's just taking off, there's never a right time to have a baby. There's never,
yeah,
ever a right time. It's just I just feel like if it happens, it happens, and you've just got to go with it.
embrace it
It
and
will
love it.
money will come. There will always be money. You will always be able to get a job. You will always be able to do something, but you may not always have the chance to have a baby. So you've just got to go with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so on that side of things, how do you mentioned you're getting broody again. You Are you sort of ready to go again now? And how does your loss sort of play into your mindset going into perhaps
Yeah,
having another one?
yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely Ambry. Like, I see like newborns now, and I'm like, oh, I just want that like little on your chest. I just want that feeling. Yes, obviously it's a lot at the time. They say, oh yeah, there's no sleep. I have no sleep now, so that's not going to change. So I'm kind of used to that. I'm kind of looking forward to having a little friend for my son to just help me.
Mm,
So yeah, we're looking. My body clock is also ticking as well. My partner's. I don't want there to be too big an age gap between my son and another one. So I feel like it's now or never. But yeah, I am worried about if that happens again. Like me and my husband, like we spoke last night, we've got something planned for the summer, and that was when I'd wanted to fall pregnant this August, so they'll be due next May. But we've got something on next May, and I'm like, I can't be pregnant for that. So like, what do we do now? We're having to like delay our like pregnancy plans. And then I'm like, okay, but if I don't get pregnant first time, if something happens again, then it's just delaying, 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 delay. So yeah, it has kind of
like it's like you
made
said,
me worry. As a,
there's always something on next
there's
summer,
never a
isn't
right
there?
time.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
And I know I'm kind of like not taking my own advice there, but yeah, and I think I will be I said to Adam, I said, I don't know if I'm going to be a high risk pregnancy now. I've had that happen. Am I going to be monitored more? Like all these things go into it. I'm anxious anyway, because our dear friends, had that horrible loss with the hospitals, that now my trust in, and I hate to say it, my trust in the NHS and maternity care is very low. Even myself, I
Mm,
had, fobbed off like, oh, they don't bother about bleeding in the first trimester, and oh, no one's checked your cervix. Like there was just no real like care. And like I said, our friends had that horrible event happen to them, and that it just amplifies it even more.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it will. I think once I know I'm pregnant and got, having, and once I know what I'm doing, like with, okay, this is the step, you're going to have a scan this week, once I know what I'm doing, then I'll be able to probably relax a bit more. But
Yeah.
when it's all in limbo, I hate being in limbo. I don't like just going with the flow.
Yeah. Fair. And that's the thing with pregnancy, isn't it? There's very little certainty until you've got that baby in your arms.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff
exactly.
going on. So
And it's such a
yeah.
long time you're pregnant for that
Mm,
it's nearly a year, isn't it? That you're just in that state of like every pain is, oh, is this twinge normal? Is that normal? And it it's not always the case of like sometimes your own instinct outrides,
the
the
medical.
professionals sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You do know
Well, it's like you said
yourself.
when
Like
you were on the way to that scan and you knew.
I just knew. I just had a feeling. I was just like, I just have a feeling something is then gonna tell us something that is gonna be difficult today. I just
Mm,
had that, yeah, weird feeling. Bizarre.
you'd said initially that sort of when we first spoke, the challenge had resonated with you because you were sort of struggling to get through your miscarriage a bit at the time and wanted to do something to support what we were doing and support
Yeah.
Tommy's. What's your mindset now? You've spoken quite openly about your miscarriage and your feelings around it today, which is a great sign. Often people who are really struggling just can't get out of their own head and can't talk about these things. So it's great that you're able to talk about it. What what do you think got you from where you were 12, 18 months ago to where you are now, and that perhaps might help someone else going through something similar?
I don't know. I think everyone handles things so differently. Until it happens to you, you're not going to know how you're going to take it or deal with it. I have, I've dealt with a lot of grief in my life, like seeing, I don't know, everyone has, like seeing grandparents pass, but actually been there when they've passed, when you're very close to them. So I have I've been around grief I'm quite familiar with it. I don't know, I just learned to just try and have a distraction, and I think that also gave me the green light to focus on something. So when they had passed, I was like, "Right, I'm booking the London Marathon." I ran it in 2022 and I got a good for age place. I automatically got in, and I had
Mhm.
to postpone it because I was pregnant with Leo and had Leo. So I thought, "Right, I'm gonna do the marathon." That would give me something to focus on, to aim on. So I then entered it, but then I actually, yeah, and then so I was like, right, this I'm doing the marathon, like, so I cannot get pregnant. Like, no, and that's not going to happen now. So that I think that helped, that the fact that I could not get pregnant, like I told myself, we're not, because I'm not going through that again. I wanted to give myself time to heal and stuff, and I wanted to focus on that. I think that kind of helps. So I'd probably say if you are struggling, like book yourself a challenge. Like maybe it doesn't have to be as extreme as a
Do a
marathon,
marathon.
but maybe yeah, something that gives you a different focus because like training for a marathon takes up a lot of mental capacity. So I would say that so it doesn't really give you a lot to think about anything else. So I would say, yeah, if you are struggling, book something that does take your mind off it. And I know it's the same old like cliche saying, but time is a healer. And with time does get, I wouldn't say easier, it just gets, you know, you're just able to manage it a bit better, you know?
Yeah.
Like I said, like, I'll get fleeting thoughts, about about them and stuff, and I think about, "Oh, what age will I be?" And I dream, like, whether a boy or a girl, all those things, but I don't know, they are at the minute, they are just kind of, like, fleeting moments, I can quite just switch my mind off from it at the mo now I'm quite strong, I would say, now to do it. But going back to your why the challenge, got me as well was also my loss, but also my horrendous event that my friends went through because I'm so angry for them that they went through this and their story needs to be shared. And I think that I just needed to something to spread awareness really with that, with miscarriage, baby loss, infant loss, all of those things. It's so unless you've been through it, you just can't relate or find it very hard to relate to as well.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
very good point. And as ever, if anyone's listening and want to support people who are doing things about this and are trying to help, Tommy's is obviously the charity that we're running for, and they do fantastic work in all of these spaces. Everything we've mentioned, whether it be birth trauma, maternity care, miscarriage. I think that Tommy's are often just seen as a miscarriage charity, but they really are a pregnancy and birth charity, and they work across the entire spectrum of pregnancy and fertility, and they're doing a lot of
Yeah.
research, both research to help prevent things from happening, but also a lot of advocacy on behalf of women and families to improve birth experiences and birth outcomes and pregnancy outcomes. So if you want to support what we're doing, please do visit marathonsmiracles.com and click on the big pink donate now button. And this is all these things we talk about are what they're trying to help prevent. So yeah, all your help's much appreciated. So how did London go?
London went well. I trained like I couldn't fault my training. I was really strict with it. I managed to do all my runs on my plan. My lovely dad came out on every single long run with me, which who will be
Amazing.
accompanying us on our route as well, just for a bit of moral support and also to give me my fluids and whatever and stuff. Because yeah, training through the winter when you've got 15 or 18 miles on your plan and it's chucking it down of rain is you need some help with you
Been
to
there.
get through. Yeah. So yeah, I like we loved it. And yeah, it went really well. I just wanted to give it my all. I I PB'd, but not as much as I'd wanted or thought I could have done. I just think, and this is no like shade at London Marathon, but I think the event has got so big, so big. I could feel it. Like there was at no point in the course where it broke up, where I could
Mm.
get my pace. I found a lot of the time I was like, I had to really slow down around the bends because there was just so many people. And, if you're running at like 7-minute miling pace, you're like, I need to keep like going. Like I can't afford to stop. And it was a bit chaotic. So I didn't get the time I majorly wanted because I think that also had an effect. Um, so I don't know what they're gonna do. I just felt like it's unfair for the runners who want to do a time, and it's amazing. It's such an amazing atmosphere, and it does amazing things for charity. I ran for SANS charity
Yeah.
for London Marathon, so that, that was really nice, and it was funny when I crossed the line. I don't know if it's fate working in weird ways, but a man crossed the line with me, and he was like, "Oh, I saw your vest. You're running for SANS." Like they had a stillborn baby, and he was like, "It's really nice to meet you. I'll add you in a group with the other SANS runners. There's a big group of them here today." So yeah, it was. Yeah, don't know if it was meant to be kind of
Really
thing.
nice. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
it was
fin
really nice.
Might not have been the time you wanted, but maybe you finished at the right
Yeah,
time after all.
yeah, exactly. I love it. I think if anyone is going to do a marathon, do London Marathon for the crowds, the atmosphere, like the buzz, like it was amazing. Again, I had to grieve my time. I was like, "Oh, I'm annoyed at my time." I was quite
What
a
was your
competitive
time?
runner.
Come on,
So,
Amy, what was your time? Because I know
well,
people
okay, so
you're by the
my
standards of
chip
this
time,
challenge, you're quick. So
my chip time was 3:30. But my, like, Strava time at a marathon was 3:27, but that doesn't count, so I wanted under 3:30. I was, like, gutted I didn't get under 3:30 because I know I could do it,
mm,
and it was just anything can happen on the day, so you get stuck behind someone dressed as a rhinoceros or a fruit
yeah.
or something. But yeah,
Well, you definitely didn't
yeah.
get stuck behind us because we were way behind you. But yeah, no, it's a phenomenal day. I've got a place for next year, and I've got
Have you? Oh, well done.
got a
Well
time.
done.
Well, Tommy's have given me a place for next year, so they sort of whether they felt they couldn't say no or what, I'm not sure. But so
Oh, well
yeah,
done. And now it's over 2 days now, isn't it? The
yeah.
next
So
year.
we'll see which one we get. But yeah, no, it'll be good. Whether I get to September and go, I never want to run a marathon ever again, will
Yeah, you
remains to
might.
be seen. But I've got a place anyway, so
You're gonna have so much time on your hands when it's like, yeah, what do I do with myself?
yeah, something like that. Do you know what? Obviously, the weekend logistics are quite full on, and there's a lot of traveling and a long run. Say long run every Saturday or Sunday. My weeks are actually quieter than they were last year because last year I was training. So last year I was like 4 5 sessions
Yeah,
a week of something, not necessarily running, but doing something. Whereas this year it's like run at the weekend and then chill the
that's
fuck
it.
out for 6 days
Yeah, rest.
and then
I was
go
gonna ask,
again.
do you do a run in the week or not, or do you just rest?
Sometimes
Yeah,
I do go for a swim and sauna,
yeah,
and then I go and do a weight session on day two, so that should be today. So weights and physio today.
yeah,
And then once I've done my swim recovery and my weights and my physio, I sort of have got a fairly good idea of where my body is by then. So then if I feel like I need to go and do a run later in the week, then I do, but
yeah,
I don't. So
yeah.
yeah. So what's the plan for Saturday? Where are we going? Where are we going to be running?
So my
I don't think
last
I've seen the route yet actually.
no,
So
so the
I know
route's
roughly where we're going, but
yeah, so the route's not finalized. My dad is planning it because he's like, I'm gonna go up. My dad is an Iron Man. Okay. So he's done that. So he's quite, accustomed to the bike. So he goes out on his bike quite a lot round here, and he's got a few routes, and he's just like, I want to do your routes. You finish in Finchinfield, but he's like, I don't want to make it too hilly for you because there's some, like, well, for us, there's a lot of like hills around here. And he was like, it would
mm,
just kill you off basically. So he's like, I'm trying to piece one together. And I could send you what I did. I did a 22 miler with my dad when I was training for London, which I can send you, which will be kind of like what the route will be. But it's starting in Gosfield at my mum and dad's house, and then kind of going out through like Beasley End, then Blackmore End, then I don't really know the area where it then goes, but kind of then back up. And I'm thinking when I've looked on the map, it'll probably be coming back up through Weathersfield and then down into Finchinfield. We'll finish in Finchinfield, definitely.
nice.
Yeah, it'll be a nice all country roads. And hopefully won't be much traffic. You never know. Well, we're setting off early because it's supposed to be hot this weekend.
Yes.
My
Yeah,
mum
isn't
might
it?
meet us. Yeah, my mum might meet us halfway with, like, fluids and refuel kind of thing, and then yeah, because my dad's gonna be carrying some stuff on the bike. So, yeah, it'd be good to have him with us as well.
Well, it's a stunning part of the world. We loved living down there.
Yeah,
We've moved mainly because of kids. You know what it's like. We didn't have any
yeah,
parents close to hand, so we've moved up here for some moral support. But that part of Essex has a very special place in our hearts. So we're really excited to go back. I actually marathon trained for the only marathon I ran before this year. I trained for in
yeah.
Finchley in and
Oh,
around. So
nice.
I've done a lot of running around that area. So yeah, it's nice running country. So yeah, can't wait to be back. And sure
Good.
we'll have a great day out.
Yeah, we will. I'm sure my dad will chew your ear off. He will talk a
Okay.
lot. Often in my
That's
sessions,
fine.
like, I've been doing, like, when I was
If someone else does lots of talking, it saves me having to talk. I can just focus on
I
running. So
remember
that's good.
I'll be doing my sessions with the marathon, and I'll be like, "Right, I've got to do, like, say, a 4-mile, like, tempo," and I'm like, "Right, Dad, like, I'm gonna be running, like, hard now," so I won't be able to talk. He'd be like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, okay." And then I would get, like, just a bit into it, and then he'd ask me a question. I'm like, "Dad, I can't talk. I'll talk to you in a minute. Like, I can't, like, talk to you." "Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot." And I'm like and I felt really bad. I'm like, "I can't talk to you right now." Like,
No, that's
talk a
fantastic.
bit.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
he's
that's exactly what we need. Exactly what we need. And I'll try not to be too slow for you. You'll be dragging me
no,
around.
no, honestly, I was worried I was gonna be slow and it would take all day, but no, I'm thinking probably about 4-ish hours is probably what we'll do, given the heat and stuff, and we wanna enjoy it. It's not a race, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And 4 is sort of my 4 hours is like my max speed this year. I don't want I well, we went a bit quicker in Leeds, so I've got it in the tank, but it it just takes too much. It takes too much to recover if we go any quicker than
Yeah, no,
well,
definitely. No, it's
4 hours
yeah,
is a winner. So yeah,
yeah.
really looking forward to it. Thanks so much for taking the time today
Right.
to record this with
Yeah,
us
no
and sharing your experiences. I know they're not always easy to talk about, and so really appreciate
worries.
you coming on.
No worries.
Um, and look forward to seeing you at the weekend.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Bye bye.
Bye bye.